Welcome back to Grid Drop. Today we're here with episode 2 of our Assetto Corsa series. Trust me, this one is an absolute banger. Please stick around to the end. I know you're going to have to deal with my very subpar commentary, but really good race, and I think you'll really enjoy it. So, if you haven't seen the last episode, that was obviously episode 1, and that was in Silverstone for the opening round of the season. I'll link the video in the top corner of your screen right now if you haven't seen that episode. I do recommend you check it out. It was a pretty solid race. Unfortunately, had a slight issue with our pit stop, which kind of ruined the race a little bit, but that is now behind us, and we are moving on. We're still in England. We're racing at Brands Hatch Circuit. If you don't know, super iconic track. Personally, I actually haven't done too many laps around here in the past. I've done a couple online races on Assetto Corsa around Brands Hatch, but I'm not the most familiar with this track, so before jumping into this race weekend, I did some kind of off-camera practice laps just to make sure I was, comfortable with the track, knew the braking zones, everything like that. So, as for the layout of this race, it's going to be the same as Silverstone, so a single 10-minute free practice session and a single 10-minute qualifying session. So, qualifying is kind of make or break. Practice, like I said, is kind of just to make sure the car is performing the way I want and that last-minute tweaks with the car are done and sorted before we get into qualifying. So yeah, 10-minute free practice session, 10-minute qualifying session, and the race itself will be 30 minutes long, just like our same layout in Silverstone. So 30 minutes, I believe, will be around 19 to 21 laps. We're probably looking somewhere around there based on lap times. Coming into the pits now, free practice is over. Obviously not really too much to see in free practice, so jumping into qualifying now. Hopefully we can do pretty well. I mean, I feel pretty confident on this track, surprisingly, even though I don't have the most experience with it. So, yeah, we'll have to see how our laps stack up against the AI, but pretty high hopes for qualifying. And we are leaving the pits and underway for our first and only qualifying session here at Brands Hatch for this weekend. Like I said, comfortable with the track, comfortable with the car. We did have kind of a mediocre performance in qualifying at Silverstone, so I am looking for a little bit of redemption from that. I do want to get a good qualifying session under our belt, so yeah, got to make sure we push the limits and keep it safe. But anyway, you can see in the top section of your screen there is 7 minutes left in this qualifying session. We completed one single banker lap, so we are now starting our official flying lap, the first lap that matters. Coming down to turn 1, it's a downhill right, a little bit too hard to judge the braking zone, and I do misjudge it there, spilling onto the exit curb and subsequently going onto the gravel as well. So a little bit of a mistake, making up some time through attacking those inside curbs into turn 2. Obviously not really ideal, but the delta is neutral going positive now, so it is a mistake, but we can fix it on a later lap. One thing that's important to note about qualifying being so short is that it really forces you to be very deliberate and cautious while also still pushing the car. So since it's only 10 minutes long, if you make a mistake on 3 laps, so say you invalidate a lap time, you go off the track, or you just make a mistake, or you don't improve your time, that's a big chunk of time gone compared to those 10 minutes. So if you screw up 3 laps, that is probably more than half the session. So it forces you to be very cautious and deliberate, and it's very high risk, high reward. So you can see that's what I'm doing here. I'm trying to be safe but also push the car. You can see on this corner especially, you get a little bit, kick out the rear end a little bit. But if you look at the delta, we're up by 1.2 seconds. So clearly there was some type of mistake or slow corner on that banker lap, but that still is a really significant improvement. Over a second now heading into the last corner and onto the main straight. Obviously a very good improvement. But we'll have to make sure we keep this lap up and improve and make sure we avoid that mistake into turn 1 on our second flying lap. So come across the line here and it puts us into provisional pole, which is fantastic. Not really expecting that. Still on provisional pole as we're rounding the last corner on our second flying lap. We're up by 0.3 onto the main straight now. Unfortunately, a bad exit, losing time. So we're only going to improve by about 1/10. So there is more time to find. We're still luckily on provisional pole, which is definitely a shocking result. But we have time for one more flying lap, and we make a huge mistake at the end of Sector 3. And that is us most likely out of qualifying. That's what I was talking about earlier. It's one mistake, and it's going to really come back to bite you. So back into the garage we go. Looking at the timing sheets now, you can see we only have really 2 people we have to worry about. We have a Lamborghini and an Audi behind us. Lamborghini is above our time by 0.2, and the Audi is up by 0.3. So we have to see when they cross the line where they are, and if they take pole position off us, the Lamborghini cannot improve. We'll see if the Audi does, and he does not. So that is official pole position. Obviously, the first ever pole position for this series. and man, that's a good feeling. I thought I was quick, but I didn't I didn't realize I was that quick. So beating out the P2 by about 2.5 tenths, definitely a really good feeling. And here we are lining up on the grid for the rolling start in first place. So here we are, beginning our rolling start onto the main straight here at Brands Hatch. Definitely going to be a good race. I was, like I said, really not expecting pole position. You can see our BMW M4 leading the pack, starting from first place. Definitely not a sight I thought I would see this race weekend, given my inexperience with this track. So definitely a pleasant surprise there. I think it's going to be a good race. Obviously, 30-minute race. I think there's going to be plenty of chaos. Hopefully we can lead the pack away, get a good start. Lights should be green in a second, and we are underway, racing at Brands Hatch. So we're coming up to the first corner now. Going to try to stick to the inside, make sure I don't make that same mistake like we did in qualifying. It's a downhill right. It's a little bit hard to judge the braking zone, but I got to make sure I steer clear of those exit curbs and avoid an incident. Attacking the inside curbs now of turn 2 and making sure that I don't get any dive bombs or any silly moves that would take me out of the race. I really want to drive defensively, make sure that no one's going to go for any moves that could potentially put me out of the race or spin me out or just basically anything that would take me out of first place. But it looks like we've led the pack successfully through turn 1. A little bit less chaotic than I thought it would be. I really thought there'd be some incidents on that first corner given the nature of the corner, but it looks like everyone pretty much got through scot-free. So definitely gonna keep trucking along and make sure we don't lose any positions. So really want to drive cautiously, at least for the first lap or two, make sure we don't make any mistakes. You can see we're a lap ahead now. The gap is building slightly. Obviously still very much within the reach of these guys, so if I do make a mistake, or if I go off the track or anything like that, these guys are definitely going to capitalize on it. So the gap to the Audi behind is building slightly, but I'm really going to start pushing now and just try to build that gap. I do want to build a really big gap before we get to the pit stop, just because if I do have some type of slow stop, it'll be able to, I'll mitigate that damage by having such a big gap. Making a huge mistake into turn 1, exactly like we did in qualifying. Luckily, that gap is big enough that no one can really do anything about it. So that's definitely a little bit worrying. I really need to stop making mistakes like that. I don't want to compromise my race like that. Those little mistakes are going to add up, and I really want to just drive cautiously and make sure I can put myself in the best possible position for this win. Unfortunately, making another mistake at the very beginning of Sector 2, going way too wide through that corner. Luckily, like before, the gap is big enough behind where that doesn't really affect my race too much. Speaking of the gap behind, you can see this is the two cars fighting for second place. The Lamborghini and the Audi, both of these guys have kept their positions throughout the race since the rolling start. That Lamborghini taking a lot of curb on the inside of turn 2 to try to get up the inside of this Audi. Unfortunately, not really working out for him, but it's good for me because the more these guys keep battling, the bigger my gap is going to increase. So as long as I can keep driving steadily, making sure I'm avoiding mistakes, driving cautiously, my gap will only grow. So you can see here, just leaving those guys completely in the dust. Anyway, lap 5 onto the main straight. We're heading on to lap 6 now. Not really too much to talk about in this race. I'm really just kind of doing my own thing. The only really thing to note is how the gap is behind and how I'm handling my own race. So as of right now, not really too many mistakes, just driving cautiously. The gap behind has changed a little bit, so you can see the Audi and the Lamborghini are not really fighting side by side anymore. They're not really battling for a position. What happened was the Lamborghini made a little bit of contact on kind of a silly dive bomb. Not really even worth showing, but it just kind of slowed them down, so that gap between those two has opened up. Another thing to note is that I'm not driving with the gaps on screen again, like I did in Silverstone. I do find that when I have those on screen, I often kind of just look at those, and it leads to me making a lot more mistakes. So it's easier for me to just focus on my own race if I don't have those numbers up on the screen, and I can just focus on running my own race. So not really good for people watching, but otherwise I'd be kind of all over the place. So I'd rather just make sure I'm running a clean race and avoiding as many mistakes as I can. But like I said, not really too much going on. I mean, I'm just running my own race. I feel really comfortable. I really think that this is going to be an easy, solid win at this point. That's all I'm really thinking about. Like I said, the pit stop is really where any mistakes are going to be. You can see I'm doing like a little happy dance with the wheel there. It's just pretty easy race so far. I mean, the gap is huge behind. You can't even see that Audi's not even on the screen of the main straight. So this is really playing into my hands here. The pole position definitely helped out. Hadn't have to overtake a single car this race, and we're just off to the races doing our own thing. and driving pretty solidly. So the only thing that's changing now is that we're on lap 9, 16 minutes left in the session. The pit window is now open. I do believe we are going to be pitting this lap. Since we have such a huge gap to that Audi behind, I want to take advantage of that and pit now, so that way if we do come out of the pits, we will probably be in some traffic, but I don't want to be, racing side by side with that Audi. You can see the Lamborghini is now caught up to that Audi. They're back again fighting for second place. Not really side by side, but the Lamborghini's definitely putting some pressure on that Audi R8. Back to our race for now. Like I said, pitting this lap, 16 minutes left, so that's pretty much dead center of this race, which is ideally where I want to be. I don't want to have one stint way longer than the other, so yeah, definitely going to pit this lap. Hopefully we can avoid any mistakes. I did look at the comments in the last video. One person did say that they could have been fixing damage on the car from an earlier incident when I was at the pit, so I think that could have been the reason for the slow stop there. I also know that I'm on Xbox and my buttons are not all mappable on my wheel, so I can't manually. I can't manually turn the engine off in the pit stop, so I have to wait for it to turn off automatically. And in GT3, you have to turn your engine off and turn it back on when you're in the pit lane. So I think that could be an issue. I really want to try to avoid that in this pit stop. But coming into the pits now, hopefully we can get a flawless stop, or at least close to flawless, going down to the pit limiter speed, and we are now in the pits. So we're going to probably emerge in some traffic given the gap is so large. That Audi is still not even past us. Here he goes. Finally passes us on the main straight. So very huge gap to the cars behind. So I'm going to guess we're going to come out into some traffic. Hopefully not anything too crazy. If it's a car in front or a car behind, that's not too difficult. But skipping ahead a little bit on the pit stop. There's a 30-second stop, so kind of boring to just sit here. But yeah, so if we do come into traffic, I want to try to get past people as soon as I can. I don't want to get held up, especially if we do end up having a slower pit stop because of that issue with the ignition. Anyway, pit stop complete. We are now back into the racing. So coming onto the pit straight now, and we have blue flags already. So we're going to be fighting side by side with someone. It looks like there's 2 cars go past us, sticking to the inside. Hopefully we can make this move work around the inside of turn 1. And it looks like we do. So that Lamborghini did kind of yield that position to me. I'm not really too sure what he was doing. He did have an outside line into turn 1, given that he had to make way for the car coming onto the track. So he had to hit the brakes a little bit harder, and luckily on the inside we were able to just grab that position real quick. So we do have an Audi in front of us. I'm not sure if he already pitted or not. That's going to be a telltale sign of if our stop was slow or if it was normal. So if the Audi continues until the pit window is closed, then that means he already pitted, and he jumped us in the pits when he pitted maybe a lap before us. So if that's the case, then we're definitely going to be behind the Audi and Lamborghini that were fighting for second and third behind us in the first stint of this race. So that's not ideal. If he does go into the pits, that means we have a good chance of keeping our lead after that Audi and Lamborghini pit. So we're going to have to see. He does not go into the pits this lap. The pit window is still open for another lap or 2, so if he does go in there, that means that we should be able to reclaim our lead pretty quickly. But we're just going to have to see. So right now all I can do is stick behind this guy. I'm not sure if it's worth trying to pass him at this stage, because like I said, if he has not pitted yet, then we're going to be battling, going side by side, pretty much for no reason, because he's going to have to pit anyway and we'll pass him in the pits. So I'm just going to try to stick behind him, limit my mistakes, try to keep a solid pace, stay pretty much reasonably the same distance behind, keep the gap consistent, and just use this guy as a way to tell if we had a slow pit stop or not. So it's kind of annoying that we have to do this, but like I said, I can't map that button on my wheel and it has to be automatic. It is super annoying, but that's just how it is. So the Audi does not pit, the pit window is closing soon, and guess who is in front of us? So it looks like we got jumped in the pits, unfortunately. You can see the Audi and Lamborghini fighting side by side through turn 1, similar to the situation I was in when I exited the pits, but we definitely lost time. Given the gap I saw on screen, it looks like probably 10 or 15 seconds, so we really need to start, going into qualifying mode and putting in some really good lap times. You can see going for a move up the inside of this Audi, way late on the brakes, almost onto the exit curbs. He's going for a switchback. Almost a drag race now onto this next corner. I have to leave him a lot of racing room to make sure we avoid any incidents, so I go around the outside of the apex, making sure to not close the door too harshly, and that looks like that is job done. So luckily able to leave enough room, not get caught up in any type of incident. one really good thing about that timing was I knew that these guys would be emerging somewhat soon. The Audi and Lamborghini in front would be emerging. So I started gaining ground really effectively on this Audi, and luckily the time was right and I could go for a move pretty much as soon as I needed to. So luckily, no contact, nothing like that. You can see on an overhead camera, way too late on the brakes, and actually almost a little bit of contact here with the Audi, and then we turn into that little drag race, and you can see here how close it was. If I didn't leave that much room, I think he probably would have hit me in the right rear, and I probably would have gone into a spin. So luckily leaving just enough room to make sure we get through that move cleanly. So now back onto the podium positions. Obviously not really ideal. We had a win kind of in the bag before that pit stop, but we're going to have to fight to get that win back. So really going into qualifying mode, going to push every single lap. I need to drive very cautiously, make sure I avoid big mistakes, but I'm going to use the whole width of the track. This is a very skinny circuit, so it's really important to use the whole width of the track. Like hit the apex, use the exit curb, get a good exit, and use that on the straights. So definitely time to kick it into gear and let this M4 do its magic. So you can see the delta here. Really, we're on a flyer right now. We're up on our personal best lap time, and we really need to make sure that these laps stay consistently fast, and we need to gain some time on these guys. I'm really pushing the limits of the track. You can see I took a lot of curb on that corner, and that's really a treacherous curve. If you go too much onto that, you'll pretty much instantly go into a spin or go off the track. So really risking it all here, putting it all on the line just to make up this gap. We do have plenty of time. It's about 8 minutes till the end of the race, so we probably have about 6 or 7 more laps. But catching is different than passing, so there's not really too many spots to overtake at this circuit. Like I said, it is a very skinny track, so it's not really easy to go for big dive bombs, and there's not really too many really long straights that with a hard braking zone that you can just fly up the inside. It's not like a lot of normal conventional circuits. So really need to catch these guys as quick as I can to make sure I have enough time to find the spot for the perfect move once I get close enough. So luckily that was an absolute banger of a lap, and we are now within reach of these guys in front. So we really needed that one good lap. Hopefully this one's going to be good as well. Just maintaining that positive delta and hoping that we catch these guys quickly and efficiently, and don't go side by side too much. So this is a corner where I gain a lot of time compared to the AI. You can see how much closer I am to the exit, and I get a better exit as well, and especially now with the slipstream. This should be enough to make that same move we did last lap on this Lamborghini. Let's see if we can go for it. We go up the inside, much cleaner this time around. Made sure we braked a little bit earlier, a little bit nicer to the brakes, not as harsh, and that move is definitely a lot cleaner than the first time around. So learning from our mistakes. But now we are in P2, just me and this Audi in front, and it looks like we're gonna have enough time. Going onto the grass, a little bit of a mistake right there, and that Lamborghini's trying to pounce back, but unfortunately he's just a little bit too far behind, and that corner is not really going to be good to overtake. So got to keep it clean. It's really hard to manage pushing this car to its limits and also making sure that you avoid mistakes and continue to close that gap consistently. So skipping ahead a couple laps now, we're on lap 17. Luckily that Lamborghini has really fallen behind. If you look at the map on the top left, if he was still behind us, pressuring us, I really doubt we would have been able to make up so much time so quickly to this Audi. So we've probably shaved off maybe probably 2 or 3 seconds since we were last racing once we passed that Lamborghini. So we've definitely made up a lot of time. Unfortunately, there's only 2 minutes and 30 seconds left in this race, so we've got 2 laps left to make this pass work. I do really want to get this win. I feel like this win it's ours for the taking. It was in the bag before, so I'd feel really cheated if we weren't able to win this race. But unfortunately, having a really bad exit through turn 2, but luckily we can make up that time through turns 3 and 4. I think there's a lot of corners on this track that I make up more time naturally just by using more of the track compared to the AI. I am really pushing, and I'm trying to get the best exits onto straights and stick it to the corners and make sure I'm hitting the apexes, using the exit curbs, literally using as much of the track as I possibly can without spinning or crashing. So you can see really pushing, getting really close to this Audi, even going onto the dirt on the inside of that corner. That curve is absolutely treacherous, like I mentioned before, but it's a risk I'm willing to take for this win. So I'm just trying to stick as close as I possibly can to this Audi, close the gap as much as I can, and stay on him, because I don't think there's going to be a spot to overtake on this second to last lap. So it's going to have to come down to the final lap of the race, and Unfortunately, it looks like only the main straight or the back straight are the only two reasonable overtaking spots on this track, so we're going to have to see if we can get a good exit here onto the main straight. We have a little bit of wheel spin up the last corner, and it doesn't look like we're going to have enough speed to get the slipstream and overtake the Audi. We do have a little bit of a slipstream, but I don't think it's going to be enough to make a move down into turn 1. Turn 1 is a very dangerous place to overtake anyway, so probably for the best that we couldn't go for a move there. But it looks like we go for a move up the inside of turn 2, but we decide against it. Just a little bit too far back. We really need to make up a little bit more distance to this Audi. Unfortunately, a bad exit through turn 2. It's starting to slip away. We had the win in the bag, and it's starting to slip. I can't imagine that we don't win this race. Hopefully we can make up some more time through turns 3 and 4. It looks like turn 4 is going to be a really good exit for us, gaining a lot of time, sticking to the apex. We're right on his tail for the back straight. This is going to be the spot where we can overtake him. If we can't get him here, we can't get him anywhere. This is the best spot we can hope for. On the final lap of this race, it looks like we can go for a move up the inside like we did with both other cars, and we do, and it looks like it's going to be a very clean move, sticking to the inside curb. Looks like the Audi's going to go for the switchback. You can see the indicator arrow. He's going to the inside. We're going to have to close the door immediately, make sure he doesn't get through on the inside, and he's still right behind us, right on our tail. We're going to make sure we don't have any mistakes, drive very cautiously, drive defensively, make sure he can't get us back. 2 more corners to go, and the race win is ours. Unbelievable stuff on the last lap of this race to be passing the Audi for the win. We had this win in the bag, and we unfortunately had a slow pit stop. We lost that win, and we reclaimed it. He fought up through the field, back through the podium, back on top, and we were on the main straight, and that is P1. Unbelievable stuff. Absolutely unbelievable. A pass on the last lap to secure our first ever win from pole position in Season 1 of Assetto Corsa. Only round 2, and we've won a race. Absolutely insane stuff here. You can see a replay. Really clean move up the inside of this Audi. Pretty similar to the move we did on the Lamborghini. Just trying to keep it close to the inside curb, make sure he can't do a switchback on us. We did sort of get into a drag race, but we closed the door in the next corner, and he couldn't get through. There was not enough curb because we took all of it up. Seeing a replay now, coming across the line. Absolutely unbelievable finish to this race. Unbelievable. Doing the happy dance, cars shaking around across the line. And that is P1. Absolutely insane. Terrible podium celebration animation, but crazy. Fastest lap, pole position, and a race win. We had the win in the bag, and we fought our way back up, and we got that win. If you made it this far, thank you very much for watching. That was absolutely insane. I'm going to start posting a little bit more Assetto Corsa. I have plans to do some more F1 My Team stuff. I know it's been quite a while since I've posted that. That was originally what my channel was meant to be, so I got to kind of get back on that stuff too. But unfortunately, I did record a couple races for F1 22 that got the footage got corrupted and I couldn't use it. So I'm going to have to skip ahead a couple races in that My Team save, but I will be posting that more in the future. But let me know if you like this video, like and subscribe and all that. You know, sorry for the commentary being so trash, but I'm getting better. Yeah, absolutely unbelievable. I can't believe we won that race. We had it in the bag, slow pit stop. We were down, we probably lost 15 seconds through that pit stop, and had maybe 6 laps to make up that time and go for the win, and we did. So absolutely crazy. If you made it this far, thank you very much for watching. I appreciate it, and I will see you in the next one.